are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and welcome to the Idera Server Backup live demo with sales engineer Brian Weinbarger. Thank you for joining us today. This presentation will run for 1 hour and will consist of our product demonstration followed by a Q&A session. You may submit questions at any point throughout the demonstration using the text box on the right side of your screen. Simply enter your question and we will do our best to answer it during the session. If we are unable to get to it, someone from our support staff will be in contact with you as promptly as is possible. You'll receive a thank you email in a couple of days containing a link to the video recording of this webcast. So, if you miss anything or would like to review anything that we learned today, you will have ample opportunity to do so. Today, we'll be talking about server backup and how to best utilize its many features. We'll touch on implementing high-level setup for multi-tenant functionality, data retention policy best practices, how to access your backed up data for recovery points, the benefits of disk safe, and server backup manager's reporting capabilities. So, without any further ado, allow me to hand the presentation over to Brian.
Hey guys, thanks for coming today. Just going to jump right in here to give everybody an overview of what we're going to go through today. We are going to talk about, give everybody a technology overview, what the product does, kind of a little background of how it works. Go through our backup manager, which is basically the central repository for the product. Go over the multi-tenant functionality. This presentation is going to be geared towards our service providers, so I just want to make sure I touch on all of these. The disk safes is where we're storing your backups, our policies, how to access your backup data, and reporting. And after we're through with all of that, we're going to leave some time open here for some Q&A. So just jump here. This is our web dashboard. This is the main repository. We call it our backup manager. This is where you're going to store all of your backups. It's a web-based interface, so you can access it from anywhere. The dashboard that you see here is meant to give you a high-level overview of everything in the environment. So you're going to be able to look at performance statistics, how many backup policies you have running, storage quotas, etc. So any activity that's going on, you're going to be able to see here. So the way that our product works, we're offering a block level backup solution. This is the opposite end of the spectrum on your traditional backups of file level. So we have a Linux module, Windows driver, that basically runs in the kernel and monitors the blocks on the disk. So we do some tracking there in between your backups. Where we have an advantage here is we take one full backup of your disk for the life of your backups. We're never going to take a full backup ever again. Beyond that, what we're going to do is just incremental block changes only. So with the change tracking going on underneath the OS, whenever we go and request a backup, we're only going to get the block changes only. We simply compress them and send them back over to the backup manager for storage. So this product, as far as for our service providers is concerned, it's a multi-tenant environment. When you get this out of the box, what you're going to have is just some limited features here. If you go into our configuration, we're going to have a place called product features where you're going to be able to basically customize this backup manager for your needs. So if you want, if you feel like you're going to be the only person logging in here and managing backups, that's the way it's going to be set up by default. Now I have come in here and added custom functionality, basically for multi-users. So I've got power users, which could be your resellers. I'm allowing sub-users as well, and those are the users that would be under the power users, groups, and volumes. So I'll go ahead and jump into some volumes here and explain exactly what that is. Basically, the volumes are where we're going to store all that backup data. The best way to kind of implement this would be to use them like categories or a per reseller type of implementation where you're going to be able to basically specify where this is stored. I can store all of this data on different volumes. And a good thing that we're going to have here for you is we're going to be able to add the users that we want, add groups that we want, and we're going to be able to set limits for anything that's stored here. Now the limits are going to apply to any server that's being backed up to this volume. So we're going to be able to allow, set up different levels of service from this single window pane. So if we want to allow control panel backup, so if somebody has Plesk, if they have cPanel, anything like that, you can set that, you can enable that here and offer that as a different tier of service. Also database backups. We support MySQL, we support SQL Server, and you can add that service here if you want. If you want to set replication limits, you can do that. We can allow them to back up hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. So let's say if you want to only allow users, or you want to offer a tier of service where you're only allowing people to keep 7 days of backups, we would set our recovery point limit here to 7. We set that to daily and then set that recovery point limit to 7. If you want to offer different sizes, as a tier of service, disk space usage, you can specify a quota here. At the soft quota, what we're going to do is give everybody a warning, let them know that they're reaching their quota limit. At the hard quota, we're going to stop doing backups. So we're going to give them a chance to free up a little bit of space, maybe delete some of their older backups, maybe remove some of that data from the server so it's not being stored here, and use that as a different level of service there. Now, users and groups, as I've showed you here, we can simply come in here and create these users. We get the option of creating a power user. Super user is going to be your administrator. The power user is going to be a kind of a reseller, and they're going to be able to have sub-users under there. Of course, everybody's going to have an administrator above them. That's going to be set up by default. Let me show you, give you an example of one of these users right now. This is one of our power users. Now, when I create this, let's look at this as a reseller. When I create this user, I simply give them whatever username I want. I just give them a default password, which they can log in and change. Then I set them as a power user. Now here I can set up exactly what their limits are as far as users are concerned. Again, this can be set up as a different tiers of service. So I can restrict the amount of sub-users that they can have to any number that I want here. I can also restrict the amount of servers that they can back up here as well. So if I set that up here, I can just specify a number of servers, and that's the maximum that they can add to this backup manager to back up. I can also add them to a group. The groups of users here, that's again this good way to kind of categorize everybody, keep everybody like the same company or whatever. You can also add some controls there as well. Sub-users here, I can add sub-users to be under this user if I want. I can add as many of those as I want here as well. The servers that we have for this user, now these, when I add a server here, these are the servers that they have control over. When they log into this web interface, they cannot see anything else except for these servers, and they only have the controls in which I have specified. Now in this case, they can browse a recovery point only. If I want to have them to have full control, which is normally what we would do, what that's going to allow them to do is come and add a server to be backed up, specify all the details for it. They're going to be able to add users to it. They're going to be able to set the backup policy, control limits like the disk safe quotas and things like that. But again, we can get really granular with that if we want. So if we want to just allow them to do backups and restores and that's it, we can just specify that. They'd let them manage the policy here. We just check those boxes. And again, for the volumes, we've already created a volume for them, and we just simply add that to the user here. So whenever they log in, that's the only details that they see. Those are the only things that they can manage, and then they can go from there. So the servers, this is basically the window where we're going to add servers that we back up. When we're adding those, we simply come in and give it a name. The IP address, the default port that we're going to use is 1167. And again, here, we're also going to be able to specify that user again. So if we've got that reseller set up, we can simply come in here and select that user, which I've already added here. So if I add another user here, I can give them full control. I can go ahead and set the controls here as well. You know, again, and add granular controls as well. I can specify a group and even more users to add to the server here as well. Now, we have some functionality built into the product here that will allow you to remotely deploy your agents. I'm going to take you through a wizard at the end of this, but first thing that I wanted to do is kind of take everybody through section by section, because we have a lot of different features here that you might benefit from. But if ever you want to deploy the agent software that we need to track the changes on those servers, you can deploy it from right here. So I can just use the administrative credentials. I can, you know, any custom configuration options, I can set here as well. Once you deploy that software, you know, the server is basically going to be able to start running backups at that point. If I want to change different configuration parameters, I'm able to do that as well. So I can come in here, give it, you know, any network options, any different options that I have available for the agent here. And those changes are changed on the fly, so they're up and they're ready to go. The disk safes. Now this is our bread and butter. This is where we're storing all of your backups. Now, the disk safes are all they are is basically a database of the blocks and the block changes from that server. Each server has its own disk safe. So when we're setting this up, we've got a lot of different controls here as well. I just select the server that I'm backing up here. We're going to give you an option, okay? The nature of our software is block level. So again, it's different from your traditional file level backup. We're going to get everything by default. So as you see here, we've gone into the system. We see exactly what partitions are available, and we're going to get everything by default. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can actually uncheck that box, and you can select exactly what you want to back up, and that's it. Beyond that, I mean, it's just best you usually get that. It's going to enable bare metal restore features. So if there is ever a disaster where you lose a disk at all, you're going to be able to restore that entire disk and be back up and running. The data settings here, the compression, we compress everything by default. QuickLZ, it's a great compression engine that we're using. It's very efficient, fast. If you need higher levels of compression here, you can use zlib. Zlib is going to give you low, medium, or high. So it's going to be a little bit more compression there. It'll take a little bit more time, but not by much. Use maybe a little bit more resources, but again, it's not going to be significant at all. The encryption, we offer the option when you're setting up a disk safe to encrypt that data. Now keep in mind that everything by default being transferred across the wire to the backup manager is encrypted. But when that data is on the disk safe, whenever it's stored on the disk, that's a different story. So this is going to encrypt all that data. It's AES-256 encryption. It basically password protects that data. So whenever you're accessing any of that backup data here in the backup manager, you're going to have to provide a password. Now, another benefit of our disk safes is that they are completely portable, meaning I can copy this disk safe, you know, from one location to another at any point in time and import it into a backup manager. I'm going to have all of my backup data there, every single recovery point that I've ever created. If it's encrypted, I'm going to have to provide that password. So that's just an extra layer of security there. Another benefit of your portability would be, let's say I have a large amount of data to back up off-site. I don't have that great of an internet connection between point A and point B. What this enables you to do is take a local backup, a data center A, you take that, copy it to a USB drive, move it over to data center B, import it into the backup manager, and that's actually going to, you're already going to have that one full backup that we do. and that's it. So everything beyond that is going to be your incremental block changes only. So just like on the volumes, we're able to set those limits that we were talking about before on the disk safe level as well. So let's say you've got a guy, he's just backing up one server. You don't need to create a volume for him. He doesn't belong to any other group or anything like that. So I can come in here and set those same exact limits. I can give them the database, the control panels, the recovery point limits, the quotas, all just the same. Now, keep in mind, if I ever move this disk safe and attach it to a volume, the volume limits are what's going to trump everything. So it doesn't matter what I have set here, the volumes are what rules. The policies, this is basically where we're setting up our how often we're going to back up. It's also where we're going to add on some additional features. Things like control panel backups and any databases like that. We're going to set all of those in here. So I'll take you through my MySQL setup here. What this is, I just come in here, select the server that I'm backing up, the disk safe that I'm going to back it up to. I'm going to pick out a replication schedule. Now, what we do is, again, we're tracking the changes on that agent constantly. So whenever we run a backup, all we're going to do is go over there and request those changes. It already knows what's changed. We're not going to have to go and scan, or we're not going to have to do anything like that. So it's going to be real fast. All we're going to do is compress it and send it back over to the server. We built this backup technology to not use a bunch of resources on the servers that you're trying to back up. That's your mission critical data. We don't want anything else hindering the availability there. So again, the most that we're going to do during a backup is simply compress the data that we know has changed and send it back over. So I can set that replication schedule up as often as I want. As a matter of fact, we recommend you go hourly by default. So it doesn't matter the difference between midnight to night, last night and midnight tonight. You're still going to be backing up the same amount of data. It's just going to take a shorter amount of time. So if I'm backing up hourly, that's just going to be really fast. Not that many changes have happened. It's going to compress it very, very fast. It's going to send it back over to the backup manager. But if I want, I can go all the way down to the minute. We'll allow you to go down to every 5 minutes if you want, and then all the way up to the year. So if I just want to back this thing up quarterly, I can do that if I want to. I just select those months, the day of the month that I want to back up, and the time, and that's it. The data retention here, that is how many backups we're keeping here. So in this policy, this is an hourly policy. I'm keeping 5 hours of backups here. The archiving is a great feature that I think that everybody would benefit from here. So let's say you need to keep backups not only hourly, but let's say daily, heck, monthly as well. You need to keep 7 days of backups, and you need to also keep 12 months of monthly backups as well. We can use the archiving feature to achieve that. So here's my 7 days. I just simply put in the 7 there for the archive point limit. I set this to daily, and I want to just back up that daily at 12 a.m. at just right there, 0 minutes on the hour. Add that, and that's going to be simply just a lock on your most recent backup. We don't come in here. We don't take another full backup. We don't take any other backups that's going to consume more space. We simply look at this latest hourly backup here, and we put a lock on it, and that's all we do. We're going to retain that for 7 days, and that's it. Now, again, I can add as many of these as I want. So if I want to come in here and do that monthly policy as well, I can do that. It's first of the month, right there at midnight. We're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to come here and we're going to look at this hourly backup. We're going to put a lock on it, and that's it. So I can keep adding these. Of course, I can add one in each individual category. So I got hourly, I can add weekly, and I can add a yearly as well. So very flexible as far as your archiving schedule is concerned. In the next tab here, these are file excludes. Again, you know, it's not your traditional file level backup where I just come in here and I select, you know, the files and folders that I want to back up. We're getting everything by default. So say that there is some data that you really don't need. You're able to come in here, browse the entire file system, and select exactly what you don't want. So let's say if I don't want any document settings, anything like that, just as an example, I just don't want these two directories. What we're going to do is exclude those from your backup, and we're going to put all that stuff, all that work onto the backup manager itself. So it'll send it back over, it'll exclude that data, and then that won't penalize you in your disk save quota. Advanced excludes will allow you to set any kind of pattern. So if I want to, you know, just exclude any text files here, I can just give it a wildcard and log. I can go recursively through the file system. We're going to go through the entire file system and exclude log files only. I can add as many of these as I want. So if you want to add some more patterns here, you can do that. Now we're going to get into some different features with the product. Now this is a Linux server, so we're not going to be able to see any SQL Server data on here. Well, actually, it is. But the SQL Server that we have, it's going to automatically go out and discover that we have a SQL instance on the server, okay? By default, just check this box, and we're going to include that data. Now, just an explanation of what's going on. We're already backing your SQL database up, okay? And remember, this is block level, so you can count on everything in your file system being there by default. So if I didn't even enable this, you're still going to be able to come in and browse the recovery point, find those files and restore them, and then import them in to the database server if you want. So this basically, what it does is it enables you to restore those easier. So we'll be able to identify the databases. We'll make them easier to restore. So you just simply select the database that you want to restore, and we're going to have it already mounted up and ready to go and available for you. So if you have multiple instances here, I can select only the instances that I want. So in this case, I have a SQL Express instance on the server. I can only get that as well. So I just select exactly like I want, and that's it. Now, Exchange, same thing. So the you know, if you've got an Exchange server on here, you just check that box. We're going to be able to identify it and make it easy for you to restore. MySQL, we do that a little bit differently. What we ask you to provide is a little bit of information about the root credentials for that database, at least a user that's able to issue a flush and a lock on that database. That's how we're going to maintain the data integrity there. The way that we're achieving that in Windows is through VSS. So that's where we're going to handle open files, any databases that might be open. So that's the way we lock that data and make sure that everything is intact there. The hosting control panels, let me jump in here real quick and I'll pull up an example of that. So let's say we've got a control panel server here. This is a cPanel server. All that I do here is add that instance. I tell it what type of server it is. In this case, it's a cPanel server. I give it some advanced options here if I want to. If it's inside of a Virtuoso container, I can specify a container ID here. And that's it. So what we do when we back up is we basically go out and get that data. The cool thing that we do with this data is that we enable you to share a special URL with your end users that they can use their cPanel or Plesk or Virtuoso credentials to actually log in and access their backup data, and only their backup data. So in the case of a cPanel user, they're going to be able to log in with their cPanel credentials. They're going to be able to see anything in their home directory. They're going to be able to either directly restore those files back over to the server, or they're going to be able to download them directly to their desktop if they want to. So it's just a great thing that you can offer them. We also have a cPanel plugin where it's going to add a little icon into their interface there. They'll be able to click on that. It'll automatically redirect them over to the backup manager and log them in to where they can access their data. So the recovery points. Now we've got some successful backups here. We're going to be able to come and access them here, okay? So any of that data that we've got backed up is all going to be here. I can come back from any point in time. This is an hourly backup, and access all of that data. So I just click on that folder over here. Here's my different, all my different disks that I have backed up, all the content on the disk. So if I need to restore any of this data, I can just hit the restore button over here. I have a few options. I can restore it back over to this original server or another server that we're backing up here. So if I need to restore this to an alternate agent, I can do that. I can go to the original location. Let's say those files are, you messed something up, you deleted it, whatever, corrupted, whatever. You can overwrite those as well if you want. So if anything's there, just overwrite that data. You can also specify different locations. So if there's a temporary directory you'd like to put this stuff in just to kind of get a few things out of that data, you can do that as well. You can also download this data directly to your desktop. So if you just want to come in, you know that you've got a backup that you just kind of want to hold on to locally, you can come and do that here. So you just tell us whether you want a zip file or a tar file. You can specify a name if you want to, and it'll download that data directly to your desktop. Now, anytime I have some database data, same's going to be with MySQL. So let me select MySQL as an example here, and I'll show you how that data looks from here. So if I've got any databases backed up, I'll be able to select that database icon. I'll be able to expand here. I can either restore all of the databases or just specify a couple of these to restore, just one or whatever. So if I select that, restore selected, I'm going to be able to specify the host, the authentication there. We don't need to specify any new credentials. We already know what we can use to restore them there. So unless you need to specify something else, you can just leave that as default. If we don't want to overwrite the original database, for some reason we want to, let's say, for example, we need a test database of our production data. We can just give this a different name, so you can just be like a test, IDERA backup, we can just restore that. That's what we're going to mount that database up as. So whenever you want to go and whenever you're through with the restore, you're going to be able to access the database directly. You're not going to have to do any extra work, to make sure that that's online. We're going to put it online for you. The control panels. Let me give you an example of our Plesk data here. Let's say once I have some control panel data backed up, took some time to get this going. We're going to have some control panel icons right over here at the right side. It's going to be the same for Virtuoso. It's going to be the same for cPanel. It's going to be the same for this Plus server, anything like that. I'm going to be able to come over here, click on that icon, and access each user here. So again, same thing that I could do with the file over restores. I can come in here and I can download these directly to my desktop. So what that's going to do is, again, zip or tar file, or I can send it over to the agent. So I can specify where I want to send it, and again, the file type. So this will actually send it back over to the host in whatever directory that I specify as a tar or a zip file, and then it's going to put that data in there and have it available on the server. So you're not going to have to transfer anything over yourself. Alternatively, you're going to be able to come in here and access that backup data. So here's our home directory. You can come in here and restore any of these that you want. So let's say they blew away their website for some reason or another. You need to restore that data for them. You can either, again, restore it, and you can download it, or you can send it over to the agent. Same options that we have everywhere else. So the restoring it's just going to restore this directory and any files under there. Downloading it, zip or tar file, sending it over to the agent is a zip or tar file as well. So as you see, a lot of restore options that we have here available. Now, in the case of, let's say, MS SQL, if you've got any MS SQL users out there, it's going to be the same thing. So basically, they're going to be able to come in there, they're going to be able to click on this database icon and access those databases and restore them directly over to the server. Same with the Exchange data as well. So again, either of these instances that I can pull from, I can restore those databases. I can rename them so I don't overwrite the original. And again, the database is up, it's available, it's ready to go. Now, let's say catastrophe. Some reason your disk fails. Okay, you're able to get another one put in that system. You can go through a bare metal restore to get that system up and running from any point in time that you have here. So if I want to go back to my backup at 7 a.m., we're going to provide you with some boot media. Okay, the ISO files we're going to give you, you can burn them to a disk. Of course, you can, any ISOs you can use in VMware as well. Just mount those up. But let's say in the case of a physical server, you're going to have to burn a CD. But you boot this up, and all you have to do is have that network configured, ready to go, and you just go through this wizard, and we're going to basically partition everything back exactly like it was. We select the disk that we want to restore. Going back over to the original host, nothing's changed there. The same storage configuration that we have. Then we select the partitions. We're going to automatically map everything over to. It's really cool. So we see that there's the data's already over there, or we've got those disks available. So we've already mapped that data over. Then we're going to restore the partition tables. Okay, you click on Restore Partition Tables. That's going to format exactly like it was before. And then once we start this restore process, all we're going to do is allocate the blocks back down on that disk exactly like they were from this point in time. So whenever you restart that server after this bare metal restore, it's going to start up, and all that data is going to be there running and available exactly like it was from 7 a.m. this morning, from when we selected this in the recovery point. Now, before I mentioned, in the archive points that, we're simply coming in here, we're looking at these recovery points, and the archive points, basically, they just put a lock on your most recent backup. If you ever want to do that manually, you can. So just coming in here and looking at the recovery points that I have, I can simply come over here and select this lock. And once I click that lock, I can lock this, and it's not going to get rid of this recovery point until I unlock it. So let's say this backup that we have here, there's some data in there that, or some critical stuff from that point in time that I don't want to lose. I simply lock that, and we're never going to merge out that data. Okay, so exact opposite here. Let's say that I don't want this backup for some reason. We can merge out the block changes from that recovery point, because that's basically what we're doing. Once you hit your retention point, we're keeping the blocks that we need to make a full backup at all times, but we're going to get rid of the blocks that are beyond our retention. Okay, so again, we're going to keep that one. We're going to maintain the capability of a full backup and all those other incremental block changes. So simply unlock that at any point in time, and that's it, and it'll fall into the normal retention. So there you go. So the task history here that we have, by default, we keep 30 days of task history in this product. You're going to be able to see anything that we've done. In this case, I've got my backup running here for my Plus server that runs every 15 minutes. I can see exactly, what, how much data changed. So, how long the backup took, the devices that were backed up, if there were any databases, I'll see that. Logs, any alerts that are related to that. So as you can see, any kind of data from this backup you can go and get. Now reporting, I think this is a pretty important feature. We get very granular here. So there's a lot of different options as far as exactly what you want to get reports on. And I'll give you an example here of an hourly report I run that basically looks for any errors, any alerts with any of the backup jobs that I'm doing, and it will send me an email if it sees anything. Now, I set the frequency here to hourly. The recipient's going to be me, so I just specify my email address here. If I have any users, I can add those users here as well, as long as they've got an email address tied to them here. We're going to send them an email as well. The report filters. Now here's where we choose exactly in very fine detail exactly what we want. Now here I've only selected task date. So the task date I've selected is error and any alerts. Okay, so every hour, exactly what it's going to do, like described, it's going to go and see if there's any errors, if there's any alerts. If it finds any, it's going to send me an email and let me know. I can also set this up to where it's giving a full alert details, so I know exactly what's going on when I get that email, and I can go fix that directly instead of coming here to the backup manager and trying to figure out what's going on. Now, you need to set this up on a per user basis. Like say, you need to know, set up this up to where a specific server you're monitoring for a certain user. So in this case, for the recipients, you would specify the reseller. You select their servers from the list. You can add as many as you want. So let's say you select all of their servers here. Keep the same settings. Any errors or any alerts, it's going to send them an email whenever they see anything related to those specific servers. This exact, versus what I had set up before, which is everything on the server. So that's what I had originally here. More beneficial for your administrator, and what I have specified here is more beneficial for the end user. So again, if I've got a user here that's got a few servers here, I just add that user or add the group. So I have all of these options here. So the control panel group here, they're the ones that are going to receive an email here. In our configuration details here, basic options, everything's pretty much straightforward. The disk usage limits that we have specified here, now by default, we're going to monitor the disk where you're storing your backups, and whenever we reach 80%, we're going to give you a warning. Okay, so this is wherever you're storing your backups. Whenever we reach that 90% mark, we're going to stop doing backups. This is so we're not maxing out your storage. We don't want to do that. That can cause a lot of problems. So we're flexible with this. So if you don't care about these limits at all, you can slide this left or right and just specify whatever you're comfortable with. By default, again, we're keeping that task history for 30 days. If you want to edit that, keep it a little bit longer, you can specify that here. You can also specify the amount of backups that we will run at one time. So as you can see here, I've got 4 backups set to run at one time. That is by default. Okay, this is just a safe limit for everybody. Now, a lot of people out there have got dual processor systems with a bunch of cores, ton of memory. I would recommend, as a rule, let's set up concurrent tasks, say 1 per core that you have available, per physical processor core. That's just a safe way to go, and it's going to keep the backup manager running efficiently. So feel free to increase that and play around with that to wherever you're comfortable. The SMTP setup here, obviously, if you want to get emails, probably need to populate some data there. So yeah, just that's where you're going to specify that so you can receive emails. We also have some language settings here. Now, by default, out of the box, you've got English, you've got Spanish, you've got Japanese. This can be set up on a per user basis. So whenever I select one of these languages for a user, whenever that user logs in, all of this is going to be in Spanish or Japanese. And then I can also set this for the entire web interface here. So, you know, whenever anybody logs in, that's what language they're going to see. You can also set up your own language files. We'll give you a way to kind of specify those, but you can upload your language file. We had somebody that did a Chinese language file for us just as a test, and that works perfectly. So if I was to come in here and select this to Chinese, all of this text would be Chinese. The API, this is important to a lot of people out there. They usually have somebody on hand that can integrate any of this into some custom web portal they have set up. Anything that you can do through this web interface, with the exception of a bare metal restore, you're going to be able to do through our API. So again, it's heavily customizable. So you know, any scripting that you want to do, it's a full API available here. So the documentation will be here. Just come in here and click on that. We'll take you through and show you all the classes. Also in the default installation directory, you're going to find a folder called API samples, where you're going to be able to see some examples of that API functionality. And let's see. And that is about it. That's a high-level overview of the product, the backup manager that we have here. Just a note, I just want to talk a little bit about pricing here, because I know that that's important for a lot of people. The pricing that we have available for service providers, we have 2 tiers, and this is a monthly 12-month term commitment here. Virtual servers, 25 or more agents, you're going to pay $7 a month. The physical servers is going to be $14. On tier 2 is going to be a 36-month commitment. Same deal. We've got 25 agents, $4.50, 100, $3.50, 250 or more, $2.50, and so on. The physical servers, 25, $9, 100 or more, 7, 5, and 3. And if you guys want to get more specific a quote or speak to a representative at all, go ahead and send an email to salesteam@idera.com, and we'll have somebody get back with you about that pricing. Also, if you want to get some more one-on-one time here with a demo of the product, feel free to email the same email address, and we'll set up some time with you, go through this demo, and go into some more details about the things that you want to know more about. And I guess I'll go ahead and see if we've got any questions here.
Thanks, Brian. We have a few questions here.
Okay.
First of all, what is the best practice for allocating backup space when adding an agent to an existing server as opposed to loading the agent on a brand new server? Should it be a one-to-one space allocation or only what is currently used on the drive?
Well, we got to think about compression here. So generally, the Quick LZ is going to give you a 2-to-1 ratio on compression. Okay, and of course that all depends on what you're backing up. If you're backing up a bunch of zip files, you know, you're not going to get a lot of compression out of that. So yeah, generally though, as a rule of thumb, 2-to-1. And then you have to consider this. We're only going to back up the block changes from there on out. Okay, so you got to think about how much you're going to retain, how far back do you want to go, and how often you're backing up. So the amount of changes in between each backup, and you know, how far back am I going to go? Let's say 7 days or a month or whatever. That's just kind of a good way to kind of gauge exactly what your needs are going to be.
Okay, great. And here's another. Are the user limitations related to the licenses on the server over which they have control, and are they ever verified in relation to the user, those licenses?
No, they're per server, so we give you a pool of licenses to set up per backup manager. So we allocate the licenses there, and they're basically how they specify how many servers you can back up. So that's what we're licensing here. That's basically the number of servers that you want to back up. And again, when I was coming through the product here before, I've already added a license here to back up a certain amount of servers to this particular backup manager. And when I was creating a user here, I was able to select how many servers they could back up. So I can restrict the server count here. So when I've created that user, the reseller, I'm only allowing them to back up a certain number of servers. So that's how you would handle that.
Okay. How about the remote agent install? Is that only supported on Windows?
No, it's Windows and Linux. Yeah, so that's, oh yeah, and one more thing, let me show you this. Sorry, I'm glad that reminded me. So whenever you set this up for the first time, we're going to have a big green button here that's going to take you through this wizard. This wizard's just a really easy way to get backup up and running quickly. So yeah, this is your remote deployment works on both Windows and Linux. The only thing that we're not going to deploy on because it requires human interaction is 2003. So 2008 or above we'll deploy on, and pretty much any Linux system that you've got. Once we've specified a IP address here for that server, I can resolve that. I can add this to a volume. So as you can see here, I've got existing volumes, and you've got limited options based off what I've showed you before. So we're compressing the backups, the quick LZ all the way over to the zlib if we want. We can add the encryption here, so we just add the passphrase, and then next thing we're going to do is give you some options for a policy. So remember the standard. Remember I told you we don't mind if you back up as often as you want. We recommend it. So the recommended standard is 10 backups. We're keeping hourly backups here. Mission critical is every 10 minutes. So these are just out of the box, just really quick policies that you can set up just to kind of get things up and running. And of course, after you're finished here, you can come back over here and tweak those settings. So if you want to add functionality like cPanel, control panel functionality, database functionality, you'll be able to come and edit those at any time.
Great. And will adding additional archive points increase the amount of storage needed?
Yes. Keep in mind that while we are keeping a lock on that, what's going to end up happening is we're going to have deltas that are basically going to be the size of the changes in between each backup. So if you're just keeping a minimal amount, whenever we go in there and just initially create an archive point, we just put a lock on it, and that's it. But as time goes on, as we reach that retention, we're going to start, having to track the changes in between those backups. So the further back that you go with an archive, the more disk space that you're going to use, and you're going to have to take that into consideration, along with the fact that you're compressing that data.
Right, great. How about, is it possible to move disk space between servers and agents and also between volumes?
Absolutely. So you can actually, volumes are actually portable as well. If you want to move one from one drive to another, and those, it's basically on the disk. When you look at it, all it is a folder that contains those disk safes. So if you were to copy that folder over to a USB drive for any reason, move it from one place to another, you can come in here and import the volume as well as the disk safe. So yes, both are portable. When I wanted to import a volume that has any data, I just specify that data here. So I give it the volume path, and it's going to go out there. It's going to see the disk safes. It's going to find all that metadata with the disk safes. So whenever I import it in, what you're going to see is the recovery points just like they were. So it doesn't matter, I don't have to add any other details here. the metadata is going to tell us, okay, this is the disk safe, this is what it's called, here's all the backups that we have for that disk safe. That includes any archive points or any data like that. So you'll have it up, you'll have it available just like you see here.
Great. And is there any maximum number of restore points, or are you limited by any quota at all?
No, you're not. So you can limit the users, but as far as, and I showed you those in the disk safes and the volumes, you can set a recovery point limit there. But if you as an administrator, when you set this up, you're able to set this up to go as far back as you want. So you can see here, I've got this limit for everything on this volume to the 10. So we can't go any higher than 10 recovery points with any of the disk safes that we have there. Same with I can do that for archive points too. So yeah, you're able to either have unlimited, or you just basically specify, if you want to go back 1,000, recovery points, or 10,000 for that matter, you can specify that number there.
All right, great. And I think we have one more. Is it possible for one agent to talk to multiple backup servers for disaster recovery?
See, yes, it is, but the way that our software is set up, the change tracking is done between the backup manager and that agent. Okay, so whenever you back up to another backup manager, we lose that sync between that one backup manager and the agent. So what has to happen is we have to, whenever that new backup manager comes to back up, it's going to, not only the initial time, it's going to have to take a full backup, but we're going to, in between those, the next backups, we're going to have to go out and scan the blocks to get the sync back to where we're tracking changes. And that can be a little time consuming. It's not really recommended if you're doing, or at least not often. If you're doing that once a week, great. Or maybe once a night, fine. But if it's not, if it's a lot of data, then I wouldn't recommend doing it very often at all. Since the disk safes are portable, you're going to be able to, copy those if you want to. Also, just a heads up, our next release that should be coming in, we have it on target for the end of this year. We're going to have offsite replication built into the product. So you're not really going to need to do that. You're just going to be able to specify, hey, on top of my normal backups, go ahead and ship the safe data offsite as well. So that'll be built in there. So just something to look forward to.
Okay, and we have one more question relating to that. What if you have two agents running to split between backup servers?
Well, first off, I'm trying to see if I understand the question here. I'm guessing they want to run two versions of the agent on there, which would not work.
Okay.
I mean, you can only run one agent on a server, and that's it. So we can't have two versions going that have sync or tracking changes for another server. That driver that we have, or that kernel module, there's only one of them that's tracking changes there in the kernel. So we're not going to be able to do that between two servers.
Gotcha. And what about block scan? Why are backups sometimes block scan instead of incremental replication?
Because if we lose sync at all, so the way that they can have it, say the server is, there's an outage of some kind, or the server's rebooted or something like that, we're not tracking those changes anymore. Basically, we've got to resync with the backup manager in order to just, get the tracking going again, and that way we're pumping out the incrementals really fast. So yeah, it's any time that we lose sync at all. Now that won't happen in the case of, hey, I've lost network connectivity or something like that. As long as that agent is running on that server you're trying to back up, we're just going to be tracking changes. It doesn't matter, if you just cut off connectivity at all. As long as we're able to reach out from the backup manager and request those changes on the agent, and it hasn't, it hasn't been shut down at all, it should run perfectly fine.
Okay, and that's about all the time we have for questions today. Any additional questions that we haven't gotten to, we will be in contact with you shortly with our support staff to help you work with them. As I
Yeah,
said,
yeah. So,
oh, go ahead, sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna let anybody know that yeah, it's sales-team@idera.com. If you guys have more questions, you want to get a demo going, just a one-on-one, you will do that as well. So just send us an email.
Okay. As I stated at the beginning of the webcast, you will soon be receiving an email with instructions for accessing a video recording of everything we just covered. On behalf of everyone at Idera, I'd like to thank you for your continued support and for joining us today. Have a great day.